Okay, so one of the things I have noticed is going all the way back to Jeremiah and the Old Testament and just different passages where the prophet of God would come, nobody would listen, or very few people would listen. Noah. People don't look at it that way, but he was a prophet of God. So the prophet of God comes, he speaks, he says, hey, look, this is what is going to happen. This is what's going down. This is what thus says the Lord. And everybody ignores. So what I see is, and you know, the secular community, one thing we have to accept, people that are not saved, people that are not born again, and people that are off the path, there's a good chance they're not going to listen because they can't hear. Let's look at it this way. Their ears are clogged. And because their ears are clogged with the distractions of the enemy and the distractions of this world, it is very difficult for them to hear wisdom. It's very difficult for them to hear the voice of the Lord on any matter. Now, furthermore, one of the things I would say is people who have an ear that refuse to hear and just blatantly refuse to listen and refuse to adhere and all of these things, I believe it is a disrespect to the prophet of God. It's a dislike to the prophet of God. It is, I believe it's somewhat of a disrespect. And I don't know how else to explain that. I think it's somewhat of a disrespect to say, okay, this person is speaking to me, but I'm not going to receive it because and sometimes it may boil down to I don't trust this prophet of God. It does say in the Bible, test the spirit by the spirit. So I'm not necessarily talking about that. I'm more so talking about blatantly dismissing the prophet of God. So maybe it is a thing too of making sure you test the spirit by the spirit. And most of the time, prophecy comes by way of confirming what you already know. So it's also important to clarify what you already know. Most of the time, we don't do this. We don't take inventory of what we already know. What we know the Lord has spoken to us. What we know that still small voice has said to us. What we know to be right in our heart and in our mind and in our spirit. So there's a big necessity to take our own inventory as well. So anyway, I guess I say that to say this. Pay attention to the prophet of God. Don't dismiss what they say. Like I said, test the spirit by the spirit, but also make certain that you not only test the spirit by the spirit, but that you make sure that you're hearing the same voice. They should be confirming to you. That's all. And just don't blatantly disregard what the prophet of God comes to tell you. There's typically a reason. And just pay attention. Pay close attention. And don't blatantly disrespect them. Hear them out at least. Especially when you know that right there, or them right there, or that person, however you want to say it, is a prophet of God. Especially if you know it. At least hear them out.